But also, to be honest with you, the country is moving towards Trump. I mean, these polls that come out and show him not doing well, I don't buy that. I think his strength is still greater than the Democratic strength. He is a stronger public figure than the Democratic people. I mean, Obama still has tremendous charisma, but Trump has strength. And I think that's what all voters look for. But they want a president who is a strong figure. And he's got it. And he can, it's just there. And half the country buys it. That's what I think.
Boy. So we got to talk about President Trump striking another historic trade deal with the European Union. The European Union, if you guys remember at the beginning of all this around Liberation Day, they tried to play tough, right? They tried to pretend as if, they actually weren't going to completely fold to President Trump, but they did, right? This deal right here that they did is definitely very U.S. friendly. In fact, they said out loud that, yeah, Trump got the best of us, right? We actually need the United States of America. And we were talking tough before at the beginning of all this to try to save face with some anti-U.S., anti-American people in Europe. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Europe values its stability, okay? Stability is very important for a continent that has basically been at war for the last 100 years, right? In some shape, form, or fashion, right? The two world wars were fought in Europe, right? Primarily. So I'm just saying, they want stability, and they have a war on their Eastern Front right now that they don't want to get worse, okay? So they need the United States of America. And President Trump has decided that, we're going to have an America first trade policy, right? Where countries are going to pay to play, right? Your security guarantees, all of the military equipment that we give these people, the de facto pseudo protection from the U.S. military via being a part of NATO, okay, which is basically an anti-Russia defense treaty. Yeah. You're going to have to start paying up, right? We're now tying that into trade, okay? And in order to receive all of these defense assurances that you get, you're going to have to invest in the United States of America. You're going to have to buy and commit to your own security, right? It's not just going to be one of those things where you kind of can depend on the United States and you don't really pay your fair share, right? And you think that, well, if we get attacked, the United States is going to defend us anyway, so who cares? Nah. No more of that. Okay? No more of that at all, okay? President Trump has said, essentially, Europe and all of our trade partners, Japan as well too, because all of these deals are similar, right? We're starting to see the same pattern here. You got to do what we helped you guys do over the past 100 years or so, right? In the sense that we decided to set up trade to where we consume all your stuff in order to help you rebuild your country, right? To rebuild your continent, okay, your countries, right? To build your countries, really. We consume your stuff. Now, our country needs to be built, right? We need to focus on building America. So now we're going to do the reverse. You're going to commit to consuming our stuff, buying our stuff to help us build our country, because our country now needs to be built, okay? And you need to come in the sphere of American dominance, or you suffer, right? You fend for yourself, okay? You fight Russia by yourself, right? You try to remain a world power, right? By yourself, European Union, okay? Canada, Mexico, Japan, right? That is essentially what President Trump is doing with these trade deals. And here's the thing. For all of those who are upset in Europe, because there are some Europeans that are upset by this, right? They don't really like this, okay? You should be upset. President Trump is a strong leader, okay? And we have a strong country. And that's just the reality of the world, okay? It's better for you to accept it and to be okay with it rather than to be mad and bitter about it. What's good for the United States is also good for Europe, okay? You heard Chris Matthews at the beginning of this video, the former MSNBC host. He admitted that, yeah, you can say whatever you want about the fake numbers out there when it comes to President Trump right now, okay, which I think are made up. A lot of these numbers are made up, okay, but regardless, he has what Democrats don't have. He has strength, right? He is a strong leader, and he's doing what's best or what he believes is best for the country, and ultimately, that is his X factor, right? That is his secret weapon, and this is why he is still winning.
European Union is going to agree to purchase from the United States $750 billion worth of energy. $750 billion worth of energy. They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion more than they're investing already. So they're investing a large amount of money. You know what that amount of money is. It's very substantial, but they're going to invest an additional $600 billion. They're agreeing to open up their countries to trade at zero tariff. So that's a very big factor. Opening up their countries, all of the countries will be opened up to trade with the United States at zero tariff. And they're agreeing to purchase a vast amount of military equipment. We don't know what that number is, but it's the good news is we make the best military equipment in the world, so sort of you have to do that. I mean, until somebody tops us, which is not going to happen. We're way ahead of every other country in terms of the quality of the military equipment. You saw that recently in Iran, and you see that, unfortunately, you see that often for all the wrong reasons, right? So those things are $750 billion, $600 billion, opening up the country. We are agreeing that the tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%. So we have a tariff of 15%. We have the opening up of all of the European countries, which I think I could say were essentially closed. I mean, you weren't exactly taking our autos. You weren't exactly taking our agriculture.
Life can change in an instant. One moment you're fine, the next, well, everything is different. You're left with questions, with pain, with the feeling that you've been wronged, and the system, well, it feels like it is built against you. This is why you need somebody that's on your side, somebody that understands, somebody that will fight for you. At Morgan & Morgan, they're not just lawyers, they're advocates. They're here to give you a voice when yours feels lost. They've recovered billions for people just like you. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, takes on all types of injury cases from car accidents to medical malpractice. They fight for your rights and the compensation that you deserve if you become their client so that you can focus on healing. They've achieved significant verdicts over the past few months for the victims involved in life-altering car crashes, like out in Florida, a $12 million verdict, which was over 34 times the highest insurance offer. And they work on a contingency fee basis, which means that you don't pay unless you win. It's really that simple, to be honest with you. So you can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/blackconservative, which will be in the description below, right? The link will be in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone's camera. So without further ado, let's learn a little bit more about the framework of this trade deal.
As President Donald Trump says he has struck his biggest trade deal yet, and he's agreed to a trade framework with the European Union, announcing tariffs at 15% on European imports rather than the initial threat of 30%. The U.S. and the European Union account for a third of global trade in goods and services.
I think it's great that we made a deal today instead of playing games and maybe not making a deal at all. I think it's, I'm going to let you say, but I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
We have a deal. We have a trade deal between the two largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It will bring stability. It will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. It's 15% tariffs across the board, all inclusive.
Journalist Nick Harper is in Washington and following this story. So Nick, the news just breaking moments ago. What do we know about this deal so far?
Yeah, Natasha, well, we certainly know that it got done very, very quickly. They were really just in the room for about an hour or so before they came out with the news that a deal had been struck. And as we heard there from the US president, they are billing this as the largest deal ever done. In 2024, last year, about $2 trillion of trade was done between the European Union and the United States. The US now getting access to the 27-member bloc of the EU. We're told that they are all opening up to US trade. Just to run through some of the details, it'll be a 15% tariff across the board on EU goods entering the United States. So that is lower than the threatened 30%. But certainly higher than the desired 0% that the Europeans were pushing for. A couple of exclusions: pharmaceuticals are not covered in this deal, and steel and aluminium coming from the European Union will remain at a 50% tariff rate. On top of that, we're told that the EU will purchase US military equipment. It'll buy about $150 billion in US energy and make $600 billion worth of investments in the United States. As we heard from Ursula von der Leyen, she is pleased with this. She says it will bring stability and predictability. But she was asked what had the US given up in all of this. Essentially, were there concessions put on the table by Washington? She seemed to dodge that question, instead saying that we started from a point of imbalance and we hit a point where we were able to rebalance. The suggestion being that this is perhaps more of a win for the United States than it is for the European Union. So countries around the world, including Canada, will be looking at this and seeing what lessons they can learn. Because, of course, Canada also rushing towards that August 1st deadline when tariffs come into effect. Donald Trump said that he was looking at deals with 3 or 4 other countries, not mentioning by name. Those potentially could come up in the next few days. And he did say that countries would either be receiving a letter of confirmation that a tariff was coming into effect or a letter that a deal had been struck. I'm sure Canada will be watching this and hoping that they are on the list of countries that is able to do a deal in time, to try and carry out some sort of last-minute deal-making and perhaps get a preferential rate, a better deal for having waited until the last moment.
That ain't happening. That's not happening, right? You don't get a better deal for waiting to the last minute, right? That's not how it works, okay? They told you, Scott Bessent told you from the beginning that if you want a good deal, then the countries that come to the table first to do the deal will get the best deal. Canada is not going to get the best deal, okay? Canada might get the worst deal because they should have been the first in line, right? They're probably the most dependent on the United States of America out of Japan, okay, out of Europe, okay, all these other countries that have already come to the table. Canada might be the most dependent out of all those. And the fact that they weren't the first to come to the table, again, is shameful, okay? Absolutely shameful because they don't have any leverage. If the EU doesn't have leverage, right? Again, look at the deal. 15% tariff across the board, okay, for European goods coming to the United States of America. Now, here's the thing. There are some exceptions, right? We actually did do some zero tariff zones, right? Certain products, including aircraft parts, strategic chemicals, semiconductor equipment, agricultural goods, and critical raw materials were agreed to trade under 0 for 0 tariff with plans to expand the list further. Yeah, so listen, here's the thing, right? We have room to have some exceptions, right? We have room for 0 for 0, okay, for actual real free trade. But as of right now, it is the job of these countries to help us build our country, right? Because again, the United States has helped all of these other countries build their countries, okay? It's time for them to help us, right? And that is the America First trade policy. That is what you're saying here. This is why you have the 15% tariff across the board, right? That's going to stay up because, again, it's just pay to play. And if you don't want to pay, then, hey, you need to come set up business here in the United States of America, right? You need to set up your business here in the United States of America, and then you can freely sell, right? You can sell to the country that you came from, right? This is a neo-mercantilist trade policy, right? That's essentially what it is. Your security is tied to trade. Okay, you got to pay for your security. I know it's a foreign concept for a lot of these countries, right? Oh, you got to pay for the United States to protect you? Yes, you got to pay, right? If you want us to be your defense, if you want us to protect you from China, Japan, right? If you want us to protect you from Russia, Europe, you got to pay, right? You got to pay. So In this case, with Europe, again, this is a huge deal because we essentially have locked them into U.S. energy and defense procurement. Basically, they're committed to buying from the U.S. when it comes to their military, right? For their military needs, they're coming to the United States of America. For their energy needs, they need to come to the United States of America, which will reduce their reliance on Russian energy, okay, something they should want anyways. And also that indirectly limits China's influence in European infrastructure and tech, right? So basically, this aligns with Trump's broader goal of isolating China's Belt and Road influence in Europe, right? We're essentially trying to isolate China's influence in our spheres of influence as much as possible. Okay, I think you kind of saw a little bit of that with Panama. So clearly we can see how this all kind of aligns and fits together with President Trump's foreign policy, his America First foreign policy. Okay, no more multilateral, multi-country trade deals, right? No, we're doing bilateral. Okay, so is me and you. This is our deal, right? And our deal is between us. And then we leverage that deal with another country that we're doing a deal with, right? In order to get leverage over them that is also in our favor. And then we just keep repeating that until we have all of these countries become vassal states of the United States of America, right? You just feed us, right? Just give us all your money, give us all your stuff. We're going to build everything here and you're going to benefit, right? You're basically just going to exist because we're going to benefit, right? You're making America great makes all these other countries stay afloat. That's essentially what's happening, right? That is the way this is being set up, okay? So, yeah, I mean, this is President Trump's trade policy. And MSNBC, liberals, Democrats, they'll find a way to poo-poo it, right? But they don't understand the grand plan, right? When you understand the grand scheme, because it's now becoming clear what they're trying to do, you're like, yeah, I mean, this is how we stay a superpower, right? We're going to need to start producing things again, okay? We can't be reliant on these other countries. We need to strengthen ourselves, right? We need to become stronger so that China does not catch up with us, right? China is getting a little bit too close for comfort, right? So now it's time to use all these other countries that are reliant on us. We need to set up trade deals that are favorable to the United States of America that's going to make us stronger, okay, so that we can continue our dominance over China and over the world, right, economically.
The total of deals for the United States, I believe, to 6, following one with Japan a few days ago, and now this very big deal topping that Japanese deal with the European Union.
Yeah, so Canada, you're on the clock, right? Canada, you're on the clock. What you gonna do? Mexico, you're on the clock. What you gonna do? Because the more deals that are made, the more leverage that President Trump gets, right? That's essentially how this works. Canada needs to stop playing games. Mark Carney, go ahead and bend that knee. The Europeans bent the knee. You gonna bend the knee. We all know you gonna bend the knee. Everybody gonna bend the knee because ultimately today, I mean, they're dependent on the United States of America. And when you're dependent, you don't have room, right? You can come out here and you can do all that talking, right? You can do all that virtue signaling, right? But when it comes time to the actual negotiations, all of them are finding out Trump is not playing games. Right? Trump is not playing games, okay? You're either going to capitulate to the America First trade policy, you're going to do deals that are favorable on our terms, or you can fend for yourself, right? You can be on the other side of that, right? You don't want to be on the other side of that. You don't want to be on the other side of it. That is the reality here. So hopefully Canada realizes this sooner rather than later. But what you have here, again, are trade deals or frameworks of a trade deal in the sense that they have a starting point. They say, hey, this is the overall agreement, right? This is what we're going to do. Now, all the little details and all the other stuff, we're going to work that out, right? That fine print will be worked out. And I'm telling you this because the media is going to come out. They're going to poo-poo this and say, oh, it's not a real trade deal. It's a framework. And it's like, well, yeah, you got to get a framework first before you have a deal. It takes years to negotiate a real deal. But actually, with the UK, there's actually paperwork for the UK deal, right? That was what I believe one of the first ones, if not the first one, was the UK deal, I believe. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that one, they can't say doesn't have paperwork behind it. That one has paperwork behind it. Like, that's a real deal, right? That's a legitimate deal. So there's no reason to believe all these other deals aren't going to follow suit, right? They're going to be the same, okay? And that's what's going to happen. Like, this ain't no play, right? Make-believe stuff, right? We're not doing all this for our entertainment. No, we're doing this because we need to reorganize trade that is beneficial in favor of the United States of America so that we can continue to be dominant. It's really that simple. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.